Okay. All right. We're going to get started. Hopefully, Chair Becker walks in, but in the meantime, let's get going. Items listed on the agenda may be taken out of the order presented. 2 or more agenda items for consideration may be combined, and any item on the agenda may be removed or related discussion may be delayed at any time. Backup material for this agenda may be obtained from Luandy Holmes, City Clerk, at the Office of the City Clerk, 495 South Main Street, 2nd floor, or on the city's webpage at www.lasvegasnevada.gov. Let's move on to number 1, call to order and roll call, please.
Chair Becker, excuse. Vice Chair Niger.
Here.
Commissioner Sherman, excuse. Commissioner McCurdy, excuse. Commissioner Armenian.
Present. Here.
Commissioner Gabray, excuse. Commissioner Breer.
Here.
Commissioner Aslan, excuse. Commissioner Howard.
Here.
Commissioner Keller.
Present.
Commissioner Johnson, excuse. Commissioner Martin.
Here.
Commissioner Zamora.
Here.
Commissioner Burgos.
Here.
Commissioner Cornwell.
Here.
Thank you, Vice Chair. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Moving on to number 2, announcement regarding compliance with open meeting law.
And we are in compliance, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. Number 3, public comment. Comments during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion, as well as the amount of the time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Seeing none, moving on to number 4, right along. For possible action to approve the final minutes by reference of the regular meeting of June 6, 2023.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Thank you, sir.
This is Breer, Ward 1.
We need a second, right? Nope. Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're about done, sir. Just kidding. We'll move on to number 5 as Chair Becker gets situated. Report by the Department of Public Safety regarding issues at city facilities and parks, all wards.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Lieutenant John Guillen, Department of Public Safety, Deputy City Marshals. I'll be presenting the July report to you. We'll start with the second page. On the far left, just want to bring your attention to, we did have a auto burglary credit card fraud incident occurred in April at Justice Leavitt Park. Our criminal investigation detectives were able to positively identify and charge the suspect in July with the following charges. Burglary, 4 counts, possession of credit card without owner's consent, 2 counts, fraudulent use of a credit card, 6 counts. From here, I'm going to move to the top. Ward 1, top 3 parks for the month of July were Rotary Park, Gary Dexter Park, and Essex Circle Park. The violations range from park violation to narcotics charges. And we did have a total of 47 calls for service in Ward 1 parks. I'll move on to Ward 2, just below that, at Kellogg's Air Park. We did have a dog running at large, and we had a total of 38 calls for service in that month. Moving on to Ward 3, Justice Leavitt Family Park, Stupak Park, and Baker Park were our top 3 parks for arrests and citations. Justice Leavitt Park had 27, Stupak Park 19, and Baker Park had 11. And those charges range from warrants and park violations. Total calls for service for Ward 3 was 64. I'll move on to Ward 4, Wayne Bunker Park. We did have possession of shopping cart. That was one charge of that. And I'll move on to Ward 5. We had top 3 parks were Lorenzi Park, Ethel Pearson Park, Ed Fountain Park. And our charges there range from outstanding warrants and park violations. And then finally, Ward 6 at the Centennial Hills YMCA Community Center. We did have 1 battery that occurred there. 2 charges were filed. Total for all wards was 735 calls for service. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next page. Our trailer cameras, we're going to have one located at Freedom Park, and one will be moved to Veterans Memorial Leisure Center at 101 Pavilion, and that's in anticipation for the start of the school year. And then our final page is some of our community-oriented policing events that we participated in. July 1st, we were at Dula Community Center for a summer camp basketball. July 29th, we were at Stupak Community Center for a back-to-school event. And the same day, we were also at Doolittle Community Center for a back-to-school event. And that'll conclude my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Russ Martin, Ward 2. I just wanted to go back to your page with all the parks listed. I think you made a little bit of a mistake, as the totals seem to be up at the top of the list versus at the bottom. You had mentioned, I think, Ward 3 had a total of 64, which, if I'm reading this correctly, they had a total of 237. So I think that was just, the totals appear to be up at the top in the shaded area where it shows the ward numbers. And like Ward 1 had a total of 111, 2 a total of 56, 3 a total of 237, 4 64, Ward 5 212, Ward 6 55, and a total of 735. So.
Lieutenant John Guillen, Department of Public Safety. Yeah, that's
Okay.
certainly. I do
Yeah.
see that.
It was a very easy mistake to make, and I just happened to catch it, and so, okay? All right.
Chair, go ahead. Or Commissioner.
Commissioner Keller here. I noticed that the year-over-year variance for Ward 5 is 0 for arrests and citations, and Ward 5 is typically an area that we see a lot of activity. Is there anything that's going on that you guys are doing differently in Ward 5 that's contributing to keeping those arrests and citations down?
Lieutenant John Guillen, Department of Public Safety. We are doing more engagement out in Ward 5 as well as Ward 3. We do have community events. We're partnering with Metro Bolden Area Command. They do have a new captain, so we're trying to improve our relationship there, which we've had a great relationship, but yeah, we do try to improve our outreach out in those areas.
Commissioner or Vice Chair?
Stephen Niger, question about the heat lodging when you find vagrants or loiterers, however you want to call them. Is there a protocol for concerns about heat stroke when you run into these types of folks? How does that work when it's really hot out and you've got folks kind of sleeping in the park?
Lieutenant John Guillen, Department of Public Safety. As of now, we are, first and foremost, we're checking for their welfare. Right now, marshals do have an allotment of waters that we take out into the field. So right now, our officers are focusing on the welfare of the individual who's experiencing homelessness. So we do try to offer, once that's accomplished, we do offer resources. If they don't if they refuse them, then, we ask them to move along, and then, enforcement action takes from there. But we do try to, make sure that their welfare is established first before we move on to other actions.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much, Lieutenant. Excellent report as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 6, a report by Steve Glimp, Parks Maintenance Manager, regarding park maintenance of updates, all wards.
Good afternoon, Steve Glimp, Manager of Parks and Ground Maintenance. All right, so just jump right in here. Uh-oh, there we go. So some of the projects we've completed since the last meeting, Gary Dexter, we resurfaced 2 basketball courts in Ward 1. Ward 2 at Kellogg's Air, we completed 2 new artificial turf fields. Ward 3, a new artificial turf field at Stupak. Ward 4, Durango Hills, we resurfaced the pickleball courts. Ward 5, we replaced the restroom there had solid metal doors, and that's not typical for our parks, and we replaced them with like see-through gates for safety concerns. Ward 6 at Centennial Hills, we're not absolutely done. We got most of them done. The butterfly shades around the playground in the center of the park, they're pretty much complete. And then just some photos for you. This is the basketball surfacing. New fields at KZ, new field at Stupak, new pickleball. Those are the new doors at Lubertha Johnson, and then the butterfly shade on the playgrounds at Centennial Hills. Some of the projects we have in progress, Ward 1, we have a new batting cage being constructed at Doc Romeo. Ward 2, Kellogg's Air, we're working on getting the parking lot re-slurried and restriped and reconfigured in some areas to add more parking. J.C. Levitt, we're working on, they're just about done, new pickleball courts there and the landscaping surrounding it. Mountain Ridge, the field improvements there are ongoing. Probably next meeting I'll have a full section on everything we've done out there. Batting cages and all that, the tournament field. Lorenzi Park, we've been running on potable or city water for the last about year and a half because the well failed, and it actually just got completed today, so that's actually done. They turned the well water back on today, so we're back in business. And then Centennial Hills, new pickleball courts are under construction up there on the west side of the park. Any questions?
I see no wait. Oh, you almost got off easy there, Steve.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm talking today, it seems. Question about Lorenzi Park and the well. So it sounds like there is connectivity. Sorry, Stephen Niger, I apologize. So there is domestic water connectivity. So just curious about, what was the reason behind keep doing a new well?
What was to bore a new well?
Yeah, if the well fails and then you guys connected to a regular water line, was there, you just repairing the well, or was there a reason to put the new well in? I'm just curious.
The well was starting to fail, well past its prime, and we decided to sink a new well. And in the interim, we're running on city water, but that park can't continue to be on city water because we irrigate out of the ponds. Just a water quality issue. Like the well water is much higher than city water. So.
Any other questions? No, I think that's it today.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Glimp, thank you so much. Now we'll move on to item number 7, a report by Stephen Ford, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs regarding the fiscal year 2023-24 Capital Improvement Program, all wards.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I hope everyone is enjoying our brief respite from the heat today. Okay, I'm going to go through a couple of things. First, I will talk about some of the projects that are underway that I've already previously reported on and what their current status is, and then talk about the FY24 new projects that were funded. You'll see a lot of TBD things on this for a couple reasons, and as I get through them I can explain it, but mostly we're at the very beginning of the fiscal year, starting 1 July, and so as we work through the projects, some of the costs have not been fully determined yet as we have the design consultants get on board and those types of things. And then the other reason you'll see it is as we are putting grants together, we may not know exactly when they're going to be completed because it kind of depends on when we get the grant money. So just give you that brief little heads up. So starting off with Ward 1, we have so these are the projects that have already been at least partially funded and are underway with our Public Works Department. The Onson Sister Park upgrade, doing some upgrades there. We're repurposing the volleyball area. If you're familiar with that park, there's a volleyball pit that doesn't get used very much, and we did a neighborhood survey with Onson and came up with a few things that the neighborhoods wanted and many things that they didn't want. So we are putting this on us in a pre-designed thing right now with Public Works. The Charleston Heights Arts Center, we're doing a few things within the art center itself. The fly on the stage, some lighting, some sound upgrades, some flooring resurfacing, those types of things just to make it a little bit more useful and update a little bit. Mirabelli and Leeburn upgrading the security, the fencing that runs along the Bonanza Trail along the backside between the centers and the freeway, actually it's between the centers and the sound wall. Upgrading that a little bit. We'll be replacing the playground and putting up some fencing to make that a little bit safer. The Oki Rancho Dog Park, there on the corner of Oki and Rancho, is at about a 30% design. We've issued the RFP for, there's going to be a canine, a dog statue there as part of that park. We've issued the RFP for an artist to give us that rendering, so that's ongoing. Creighton Park soccer fields, that one is was one that we had submitted for SNPLMA and was denied, and so this year in FY24 it was fully funded for construction. So that's why that one is on there again. The new projects that we're working on in Ward 1 is the SNPLMA project that we're going to be submitting next month for Betty Wilson West, that will have 4 synthetic soccer fields, a playground, a walking path, a warm-up area, and some extended parking on that west side. And we're also going to try to make the actual Betty Wilson entrance a little bit more photogenic. It's got some concrete picnic tables and chain link fencing, and while it's very functional, it doesn't look very good. And today's very Instagrammable society that we have is people come from out of town, they want to take their pictures. We want to try to make it look good. The thought is to make it look somewhat similar to the Majestic Park entrance. That's kind of a big thing on the entrance to the park. So that's what we're working on. Again, we don't have an estimated cost for that. We're still putting together so we can submit to BLM next month, September. In Ward 2, Mr. Glimp already talked about our synthetic turf replacements at Kellogg's Air. Those are not done yet. They're just, we've got 2, we're still working on the other 5. The Darling Tennis Center court expansion, that was only funded, again, to take it to what we call schematic design. That's going to take a minute to do that, and so the thought is, and a lot of these that you'll see design funding only, is because it takes so long to get things funded as part of the strategy, is to fund the design in 1 year and then hopefully fund the construction in the next year. So it kind of spreads the money out a little bit among the wards. So when you see that design only, that's the purpose. We're doing some interior renovation at Veterans Memorial Community Center. That's actually in bidding right now. And then the big pool, the regional aquatic, which we received the SNPLO, the federal grant for $9 million, is in permitting right now, and so that's getting close. And we're hoping to have that done by the end of next year. In Ward 2, the new projects that were funded, we are replacing at Angel Park. We're replacing that restroom. If any of you are familiar with the restroom at Angel Park, it is basically built into the side of the hill, just off of Durango. Councilwoman Seaman has asked that we replace that, so we're in that process now to do the design. We just got a consultant on board to replace that, and the location is probably going to be on top of the hill over where the restroom is now. That's sort of kind of the plan. The next one is the Porch Walk Park, which is on that vacant land west of Durango and Kellogg's Air, and that is also going to be the SNPLO Round 20, and we're still working on that concept and the costs for that to be submitted next month with that Round 20 submittal. Ward 3. So Ward 3 is the other SNPLO federal money that we will be going after next month. If you recall, we had last year we funded basically a concept study to see what would be the best thing to do with Chuck Meeker Sports Complex. It was either upgrade the bathrooms and add a gym, demolish everything and start over, or demolish everything, including the baseball diamonds in the back, the tennis courts, the playground, Rafael Rivera, the whole thing. That was the fourth option. That was deemed to be a little bit too excessive, so in working with the councilwoman, we're going with option 3, which is to demolish the existing Chuck Meeker project or building and construct a brand new sports complex that would be more modern and more usable for the folks down there in that area of town. So again, the estimated cost we have on that one, because we've already been through the concept, is about $40 million. It's actually probably closer to $45 million at this point, and that's our best guess on the completion if we get the funding. That will be a major project for Ward 3. Huntridge Circle Park is kind of in pending status right now. We're still working with the council office and deciding what she wants to do with that. The Freedom Pool Lifeguard Shack, we put a roof and HVAC over that. That one is completed. The East Las Vegas Community Center improvements are completed. The East Las Vegas Family Dog Park is in design right now. We ran into a little bit of problems with some easement issues on the outside, so we're working through those. And then the Arroyo Vista Park, which was previously called Harrison Marion Park, is under construction and is expected to be done later on this year. The new projects for Ward 3, Fifth Street School Auditorium has been there for a while now, and so we're doing some sound and lighting upgrades, flooring, painting, all those types of things. The East Las Vegas Legacy Park was a request by Councilwoman Diaz to create a park or a plaza that is similar to the West Las Vegas Historic Legacy Park that was created and actually funded by the county, that was put in over off of Mount Moriah and Martin Luther King, that honors the history of some of the folks that made historic Westside Las Vegas historic. And Councilwoman Diaz wants to do something similar on the east side. So we're looking at that, trying to find a location, what that would contain, what that would look like, those types of things. So that's going. And then the Freedom Park restroom replacement. The major part of that project is the restroom, because that restroom, I think, was built in the 50s, maybe the 60s, and it looks at. And so we'll be replacing that one, and then we are adding some other amenities as we work through the council office and through the community, some volleyball courts, a few other things like that to make the park a little bit nicer. In Ward 4, the Durango Hills Golf Course fence is getting almost complete. A pickleball complex at Wayne Bunker was the big Stimplema $12 million project that was awarded with federal money. That's currently in design now. We'll be finishing that up, probably design in about a year, so construction will begin shortly thereafter. Police Memorial Park is actually getting really close. I was up there yesterday, and to look at some drainage issues. That one is almost ready to go to permitting, and of course we'll be doing 4 pickleball courts. This is the one where we have the Canine Memorial. We actually have the statue of the canine is being stored out at Lorenzi Park right now in the warehouse, and it looks really good. I think everyone will be really, really happy with that. The canine that honors the canines that died in the line of duty, that will be placed by the dog parks there at Police Memorial Park. Excuse me. Ward 4, the new stuff. In Ward 4, the Durango Hills pool improvements. That's been a while. Still the original plaster and still a lot of the original stuff on the Durango Hills. We'll be redoing that. We're also looking at adding an active adult center on the north side of the Durango Hills, so it will operate very similar to what Centennial Hills is, where we have the YMCA that operates the one side, and then have the active adult center on the other side. That was at the express request of Councilwoman Polinsky. We're also looking at a concept to do another pickleball complex up off of Centennial and Grand Canyon. That is the location where we were trying to move the other pickleball complex that's at Wayne Bunker, and we were trying to move it up there, and that was denied by BLM. And so she wants us to still move ahead with doing a design, trying to get another complex up in that area. It's a large site, it's 20 acres, well away from residents and next to the freeway. And so we think that's got a really good chance. We'll probably submit that one for federal money round 21, so a year from now. And then the Viper Lacrosse field upgrade. So as I mentioned last meeting or a couple meetings ago, one of my priorities that I wanted to do is to finish off parks that we already had that weren't finished yet. Viper Lacrosse is one of those. It's got 2 lacrosse fields. There's room on the west side to have 2 more fields, and that would finish off that park and get rid of the vacant land that's out there. So we were funded for that full design, hopefully to be funded for construction next year. Ward 5's got a lot going on. The Doolittle Master Plan was completed on what that could look like. It's a large dollar amount, as you can imagine, if we were to basically scrape Doolittle site, the Doolittle Park, all of that, and rebuild it. And so we're working on how we can phase that and how that could be funded. The Here's Park upgrade is, again, being submitted for Land and Water Conservation funds. The Lorenzi Court expansion was federal Stimplema awarded, so it's 200, but the award was $3.5 million. The Lorenzi water well replacement, Steve just reported that's now complete. The Doolittle pool condition assessment and rehab, that was all completed prior to the beginning of this year, of the swim year. And then the West Side Arts, Performing Arts Center, that's the African American Museum and Arts Center. The consultants that are working on that are actually in town tomorrow that we'll be getting a report from, and we'll have a programming report and a funding report on how that could look toward the end of this year. What's interesting to note is, I don't know if you are aware, but there was an African American museum that was just opened in South Carolina, and it was a relatively large museum. I can't remember the square footage off the top of my head, but it was pretty good sized. It had made a lot of press. That was first announced in 2003. And so it gives you kind of an idea of how long it takes to put something like this together. And so as we work through this and try to get community buy-in and consensus, which is everybody's got their own opinion on what this should look like, it's going to take a minute. And so we had Gallagher and Associates, who is a national, that's what they do, are museums. They put these together, and so hopefully in December, we'll have the final report on what they've come up with. They've had, I don't even know, many individual meetings. They've had community outreach meetings. They've done a lot of outreach. Tomorrow, when they get here, we're looking at potential sites where we've given them some ideas of where this could sit. And so that's going to be a very, very long-term project. The stuff that is new for Ward 5 in this year, we're putting a splash pad at Children's Memorial. We are creating a walkway between the historic West Side School and James Gay Park. Because of some of the development that we're looking at potentially doing at James Gay, there was a request to connect it somehow to the historic West Side School. And so along the, it's actually the western boundary of I-15, we have some right-of-way and some land that we can actually build a trail and go from the historic West Side School up to James Gay Park. And then the Doolittle Active Center remodel will start this fall. That was mostly an HVAC rehab because it's old and needed to be replaced, but we're doing a lot of interior work to bring that up to some really, really nice looking standards in Doolittle Active Adult. Ward 6, the Centennial Hills BMX bike park that's there south of that we were planning on putting there south of the fire station. We're rescoping that one. So my original thought on that was to put in some BMX trails, right, so you can get out and ride your bike. Once the consultants and the professionals got a hold of it, it turned into an $11 million project. And it's like, no, that may be a little much. So we're trying to downscope that a little bit to get that into a more reasonable price. The project was outstanding. It looked really cool, but the $11 million price tag was a little much for that 3 acres of land. It was a little high. The Floyd Lamb Park irrigation well replacement will be starting this fall when we can kind of go down and the irrigation needs aren't so hot, so we'll be replacing one of the wells that's failing now. The ponds are being filled with potable water from the fire hydrant, and that's how we're watering it, and it's really expensive, which is one of the reasons the Lorenzi well, when you say it was hooked into city water, it's not only prohibitively expensive, but it's really, really prohibitively expensive. So we're doing the same thing up at Floyd Lamb. Shooting range remediation is going to be a long-term project. We're doing that in little chunks to clean up that property. The Stimplem awarded Northwest Regional is in design, and that's going to be a ways out. Best guess is sometime in 27. That's going to be a major undertaking to get that park completed. The restroom at the hay barn is in permitting right now, so that will be going out to bid soon. And the Majestic Field rehab, Steve mentioned that. That's kind of an ongoing thing as well. So the new stuff in Ward 6, Centennial Hills Active Adult Center addition, we're looking at adding on maybe 10,000 square feet-ish to the Active Adult Center at Centennial Hills on the northeast corner, kind of sort of parallel to the parking lot. We're looking at that. That's a full design. The Centennial Hills indoor and outdoor pool improvements, that's not only the plaster and upgrades, but we've got pumps, we've got filters and HVAC for the pool, the interior pool and the exterior pool that we'll be replacing because that's now coming up on 20 years old and the end of its life cycle. And then the historic building renovation of Floyd Lamb, still working on that. Met with the consultants out there this morning, as a matter of fact, and it was really pretty out there this morning. Wasn't hot at all. Look at that to see what we can do to restore 4 or 5, depending on how much we can afford, those historical buildings out there to make them more usable and maybe even publicly accessible. So we've got then just a couple of things for all over the city. We were funded to do some non-functional turf removal to get rid of turf that's in the parks, but not used for anything, driveways, front entrance areas, things like that, it's just grass taking up water. So we've got a really large plan put together for the non-functional turf removal. We're looking at putting accessible playground, inclusive playgrounds. We were funded more than I was expecting for that, so we're looking at a minimum of 2 in each ward, with the emphasis being on those playgrounds that still have sand. We're trying to get rid of the sand because that's kind of inaccessible, right? And the sand just basically turns into large kitty boxes and needle dispensary things. So we're trying to get rid of all the sand. That's going to be the priority. And then we were funded for some asset rehab replacement for parks and facilities. So when things break down, when netting goes down, when furniture breaks, when weight equipment breaks or goes down, we have a fund to replace that. So that's what that is, asset replacement is. Okay, so I'm assuming that there may be a question or two, so I am ready to take questions. Or not.
Looks like you've
I
stunned
have a
them.
question.
Commissioner Keller? Oh, no, I'm sorry, Commissioner?
On the item you just mentioned about the rehab of the parks, the fund for rehabbing park equipment when it gets broke, are you considering if you have to replace park equipment, making those maybe adding additional accessible or handicap accessible items to those parks instead of, putting in the same type of equipment? So that way, instead of just 2 parks per ward, there'd be more parks in each ward that would be more accessible to all of our citizens.
That is, yes, Steve Ford, Director, Parks and Rec. Yes, ma'am, that is kind of the plan. As we identify areas that we can do that in, for example, at Onson Park, as part of that rehab project, we actually are taking some of that asset money and giving it to the project so they can use the project money for other things. But that's definitely one thing that we're looking at doing is if there's an opportunity to replace things that with the more accessible stuff, that's what we're going to try to do.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner, go ahead.
Hi, Sue Ann Cornwell. Just a couple of things. When Chuck Meeker, are you aware that there's a planter there with a tree that was dedicated to one of the 58 angels?
Was not.
When they start tearing that down, it's right outside the main entrance. So just so you're aware of that, it has a plaque there for Eric Silva.
Okay.
And then we've talked about putting another flagpole in at the Healing Garden. Where do we stand on that? I did get funding from some of the Canadians Angels parents that have been wanting this up for 5 years. So.
Right. Again, Steve Ford, Director of Parks. The flagpole, I need to have another conversation with our city manager to see if that's something we want to entertain. There's nothing in our current city policy that would prevent it, but there has been a little bit of, I won't say pushback, I'll say concern about if we put up a flagpole for a different country, would we allow that at any other park that we have? And I understand the Healing Garden is not like any other park, but it does set a precedent. And so there's some ongoing discussions about that, and that's kind of where it sits.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Keller?
Commissioner Keller here. Would the flagpole not include the American flag?
There's a Steve Ford, Director of Parks. There's a flagpole there that has an American flag on it, but by policy and by flag regulations, if there's another country's flag, it has to be a separate flagpole.
And if I'm not mistaken, Director, it'd be slightly lower, right?
Pardon me?
It would be lower. It would be slightly lower.
It has to be cellular, yeah. We've checked all of that out.
Yeah, I think the only time is if you're in Texas, it can be the same level, Texas flag, American flag.
Okay.
History for you. Any other questions today? Director Ford, I think you gave us so much to chew on. And you hit us right out of the box by saying 94, definitely cooler. It is. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So thank you. Looking at our list now, we can go to item number 10, which is citizens' participation. Public comment during this, well, I'm sorry, number 9, I had crossed that one off. 8? Wow. Well, that's why, because you walked away.
Yeah.
All right, this is what happens when you show up a couple minutes late. Director Ford, Parks and Recreation, Cultural Affairs regarding emerging issues and activities of all Parks and Recreation Divisional Awards.
Thank you, Steve Ford, Director of Parks and Recreation. So I really don't have a whole lot to report out today other than the report that I just gave. The one thing I wanted to make you aware of is that we are still recruiting for a deputy director for our department. That recruitment actually closes Thursday, excuse me. And we're looking at applications now to see how we can fill that position. The other item that has come up recently is the amount of turf, and I mentioned it with our turf removal, the non-functional turf that we do have in the parks. We're still, the way that this is going to work for the turf is we have, for every park in the city, we broke it up into areas. And so we can go in and take this little area and remove it and know what the square footage is and because we have the rebate with the water district, SNWA. And so we can break that up into smaller bite-sized pieces. We're not obviously taking any of the fields. We're not taking any of the spaces that are actually used. We are going to concentrate first and foremost on those areas. As I mentioned, the entryway, the one that comes to mind is Rainbow Family Park. There's an entrance with some turf right there, and it's just on a hill, and all it does is take water and need to be mowed. So we're going to be removing that at some point. We've got some turf over downtown at the Dula Community Center where my office is, that is going to be starting this week to start killing that grass and removing all of that turf, because that's just ornamental turf out in front of the building that's not serving any purpose. So one of the things that has come up to us, and I want to make you aware, is how we are approaching that to remove turf, and we've got a very, very good system in place. We have an agreement in place with the Water District for the rebates. So once we get that rolling, that agreement was approved last month, and so once we get that rolling, we can start saving water by removing all of this non-functional turf. So that said, that's all I had for you, but happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Chairman?
Commissioner, go ahead.
Yep. So when you remove the turf, is it going to be like a desert landscaping, or do you have other, like you're putting artificial turf in? What do you?
It will be, that's a good question, because there are some areas where we may consider putting in artificial turf. But for the most part, it's going to be desert landscaping. We need to have a certain percentage of cover, either in shrubs or trees. We're trying to plant trees. As you know, that's kind of our goal, is to plant more trees. And so it's going to be very, very drought resistant and desert landscaping.
Anyone else? Okay. Great. Thank you very much, Director.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, I'd like to go to item number 9, which is a report by commission members regarding parks and issues and events within their respective council wards and at large. Commissioners, does anybody have a report? I do have a few things for Ward 2, but I'd like you guys to go first.
This is Commissioner Burgos from Ward 6. Councilman Nancy Brunet has the Yappy Hour, which is going to be Thursday, August 10th. It's from 6 to 7 p.m. It's at Centennial Hills Dog Park. Please join the councilman for treats, fun, and more. It's not necessarily a park event, but it's in Ward 6 and Ward 4. It's the Legislative Town Hall, Thursday, August 17th, from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at the Northwest Career and Technical Academy. Also, another Ward 6 and Ward 6 joint event is the Las Vegas Metro Town Hall, and it is Tuesday, September 12th, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Las Vegas Metro Police Department Police Academy on Cheyenne. And the special guest will be Sheriff Kevin McHale. And
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Then I'm going to put on my Ward 2 hat. Councilwoman Seaman will be hosting a breakfast buzz from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Saturday, August 8th at Veterans Memorial Community Center. That's at 101 Pavilion Center Drive. And you can RSVP, you must RSVP, in fact, to Ward 2 at lasvegasnevada.gov. Also at Veterans Memorial, the Councilwoman will be hosting a prevention event related to the subject of human trafficking from 6 to 8 p.m. next Tuesday, August 8th. And then September 30th, I know this is getting well ahead of it, but we'll mark the Ward 2, the next Ward 2 Art in the Park at Bruce Trent Park. And the event will be held from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the reason I wanted to mention it again, and I know I'll mention it again next month, is because they are still looking for artists if they're interested in booths, that they should go ahead and apply. And that's what I have for Ward 2. Okay. And seeing no other commissioners with reports today, I'd like to move towards citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the Commission. No subject may be acted upon by the Commission unless the subject is on an agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time given for a single speaker is allowed, may be limited. And I don't see anybody here today, but this seemed like the most appropriate time to bring up another matter to the commissioners today, which isn't, it's not an action item per se, but it is something for citizens' participation, which is the City of Las Vegas Parks and Recreation Department, after having some conversations with them and with some of you, has agreed that they would actually donate a tree and plaque on behalf of former Chair Malcolm White in his remembrance, provided that one of the commissioners, whoever was closest to him or could possibly have a connection to him, would reach out and work with his family to decide which park that would be most suitable in. So if you're one of those commissioners that have any kind of connection to former Chair Malcolm White, please reach out to me or work with city staff so that we can find the appropriate park that his family would have a little bit of say in that. All right? Thank you. That's what I have today. Okay. And so if there's, without any other comment from the public, then I would like to go ahead and call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.